And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Dungeon Guilds. A friend of mine introduced me to this game a few weeks ago, and I was really enamored with it and went and hunted down the company from Taiwan, actually, because I thought it was a pretty cool little game. And that apparently is giving away my opinion of it a little early, but let's get to it. Each player is going to start with 2 coins and then 5 cards. You can see here are 5 cards for one player. They're numbered from 1 to 5. Here's 5 more of another. So you can see they have similar kind of looks to them. I call it the creepy precious moments. But there you go. That's basically each player is going to get 1 set of these. A dungeon is going to be set up based on the number of players that are playing. To do that, you'll be drawing from this dungeon deck. And so let's say we're playing a 5-player game. So I draw 5 cards from this dungeon deck. Now I happen to draw 2 cards that have 1 star, so I'll place them at the top of the dungeon. Then 2 with 2 stars and 1 with 3 stars. So this is how the dungeon looks here with 5 rooms. I'm then going to put a boss in the dungeon. I'll draw from the top of this pile here. The boss here happens to be a red dragon. He has a special ability of adding 10 treasure to the last room. So here are the rooms of the dungeon. Now each room of the dungeon has a 1 to 3 star rating. It shows how powerful the creature is in that room. It's on the other side of the card, which is 3 to 6, and shows how much treasure. You'll notice that the 2 stars are 3 to 7, but the treasure goes up 6 to 10, and the 3 stars 5 to 9, with treasure from 10 to 14. Players are going to be picking 2 of their cards that they will have inactive. They'll put those 2 cards down. There's coins at the top of the card, so whichever card you make inactive, you'll start with more coins. So if I make my 5 and 4 inactive, I'll start with 4 extra coins at the beginning of the game. So players will have 3 cards to pick from. On their turn, when it's a player's turn, and he will put down a card next to one of the dungeons. And then the next player will go and put a card next to one of the dungeons. And then the next player puts a card next to the dungeon. And then the next player puts a card next to the dungeon. And then the next player puts a card next to the dungeon. And then the player who went last will get to put out another card. Now, when you're putting out the cards next to the dungeons, you are allowed to displace another card. So in this instance, let's say 3 wants to displace the purple one. He does so, but he has to pay a coin to the bank. If it had been a level 2, he would have to pay a coin to the bank and a coin to the person, and down here 1 and 2. And so that when you're just going to keep bouncing back and forth as players put out these cards, and eventually each player is going to have 2 cards out on the table in front of them. So let's say blue puts one here, and what's the other color that didn't get out yet? I see 2 blacks. Oh, another purple. Okay, so here we go. Now, at any given point, if someone puts out the 2 numbers that are out there are equal to the max that the dungeon can be. For example, this blue and the black here are a 7. So in that case, we'd say that one's locked. No one can be displaced at that one because they're going to automatically beat it no matter what. Once everyone has their cards placed out, we start at the first card and we turn it over. This is going to be 3 to 6. It's a 3. These characters have a combined total of 4, so that's equal to or higher. They beat it. There's 3 treasure to split. It's greens, so green is going to get all of that. We then go to the next one where there's a 2 and a 3, a 5. We turn it over, a 5, they beat it. So there's 5 treasure to split. Orange gets 2, black gets 2, and then there's 1 gold left over, which goes to the higher person, in this case black. Then the next one is a 2 and a 1, and it's a 6. 3 does not beat 6, so therefore they lose. But not only do they lose, so does every person below them automatically lose. And each person who is in a losing room has to pay the coins that it shows on their card for losing, and they don't get treasure. Which is too bad for these final guys. Well, they would have lost anyway. But had they somehow beaten this guy, they would have gotten 23 treasure. So that's basically how the game works. You'll set up another room with another dungeon master, like here, the succubus. Nobody can play number 1s. Here's the guardian. 4 and 5s do different things. There's different cards, and each of these cards has a different effect on the dungeon, and you'll get different groupings of 1, 2, and 3 levels, and you're never sure what monsters are there. So there you go. I said the artwork was creepy, precious moments, and it kind of is. I mean, it's not like don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this is bad and blah blah blah, but it just they're little girls, and they almost feel like, I don't know. It just seems odd. But the gameplay itself and the artwork for the monsters is great. Except they included 5 promo monsters in here in the box from like different companies in Taiwan, and their artwork's really weird. But the rest of the artwork's cool. And the game itself is highly entertaining. The fact that one messed up room ruins all the ones underneath that is super fun. And what cards you're going to play where? Obviously everyone wants the bottom treasures because they're very valuable. But there are times where I will play low treasures on another spot, a 1 on another spot, to force somebody to displace me, and then I get some money out of the deal, maybe, or at least I made them pay some money. And it's an entertaining game. You know, you're taking the bottom spots. Well, I'm going to take the top spot and lose. So I don't know. It's not a difficult game. It's not super complicated, but it's a cool idea. And the interaction and talk at the table as people, and as you turn over those cards, there's that tension like, will this card ruin everything for everybody else? And like I said, it's one of those games that has a simple concept, but works well. Now the game goes up to 6 players, and I think it plays especially well with 6 and 5 because there's so much going back and forth. The rules talk about you can play with teams and you can have a dummy player, but that stuff's not as interesting to me. I just love the every man for himself 6-player game is really tops for this one. So I'm hoping that this can get picked up and brought to America, because it would be one that I would be recommending that people add to the collection. It's certainly going to make it into my collection. A great little game, Dungeon Guilds.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.